went to high school together, and he taught me everything I know about preaching.
Come on, man.
No, but man, he's spoken for us before, and man, he killed it. He smashed it, and I know you guys really enjoyed it, so I invited him to come speak at our camp this year. So y'all give it up for Mr. Tony Blackman. Don't let him give you a hug because he'll crush you with them arms.
Oh, gosh.
Good morning.
How y'all doing today? I want to say that worship was awesome, man. Like, I was back there crying like a baby. It was good. Like, I like how the Holy Spirit, you could tell it was flowing in here. Y'all all involved. That was awesome, man. Thanks again for having me. Was anybody out here last time I was here? Anybody? Cool. So y'all probably know what to expect. Y'all know what's coming. All right. First and foremost, y'all know that I like to start off with 1, 2, 3, Jesus. So when I say 1, 2, 3 at the top of your lungs, I want y'all to scream Jesus as loud as you can. All right? Good. 1, 2, 3. Jesus! That's good. But since this is hometown camp, I can rap just a little bit harder than that. So I'm gonna say it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Jesus! Nice. All right. Secondly, Jesus in John 14 said that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him. He said that he was the way, the truth, and the life. And I told God that I would speak the truth, and to strike me dead if I was lying. In the den of a lion and leave me there where I'm lying. The devil's hating, I don't blame him for trying. He probably only hates because he knows that I'm never dying. They said I'd be dead or in jail, it won't amount to nothing. I'm still alive and well, it's gotta count for something. Trapped in a paradox, searching for paradise, speaking in parables, gamble life with a paradise. The object is to make it about the projects, but it's a struggle when living without a prospect. Steady hands, I'm ready, just give me one shot. I'm not complacent when facing life from one spot. No silver spoon, cause nothing was ever done for me. Crowded room, misery loves company. If you've been through it, you see through it apparently. Life is a book and the pages are transparencies. Trying to live a dynasty, dying to live a legacy. Probably die of prodigy as long as there's no discrepancy. One shot, you're here only temporarily. Give everything you got and the truth trumpet the rebel. That's my drop. Appreciate that. Okay. Thirdly, Jesus, when he was 12 years old, they had a Passover feast, him and his family. They go every year, right? So he shows up at the feast, they have a good time, and a day later, his parents, they're doing their thing, they're moseying along with the rest of the family. They notice Jesus wasn't there. They're like, where's Jesus at? 2 days later, they find him in the temple, 12 years old. He's in there preaching and teaching and asking very intelligent questions. The Sadducees and Pharisees, people that knew the Bible like the back of their hand. What is this? No, I'm just kidding. But so he's in there and like his parents show up and they're like, Jesus, like, what are you doing? This is what he says. This is Luke 2:49. Check this out. After his parents, keep in mind, his parents been looking for him for 2 days. Now it's been 3 days total. And they find him in church, 12 years old. This is what he says when his parents find him. He said to them, why do you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business? Now, let me stop right there. Really let that sink in. 12 years old, Jesus says that he has to be about his Father's business. Now, his father and his mother were looking for him. So who was he talking about? God, yes indeed. Also, if that would have been me, 3 days later after my mom and dad found me, I would have got the business right there in the church. Like they would have handed it to me right there. That's neither here nor there. But what I want to talk about today, though, is being about our Father's business. And clearly you guys are, because you're in the right place right now. So give yourself a hands on that. That being said, I brought my daughter right here. She's going to help me read a couple verses Y'all welcome. This is Maddie B. Come up here. You better not be nervous. We're going to read out of Genesis 37. She's going to read a few verses. I'm going to break it down. This is the tag team tandem right here. All right, I'll hold the mic. Go ahead.
This is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers.
Hold on, wait. So I'm going to have to stop her frequently because I want y'all to really hear this. Joseph was 17. Is there any teenagers in the room out there? Okay, so teenagers. So he was 17. Okay, Jesus was 12. He says he has to be about his father's business. He was like pretty adamant, pretty serious about that, right? So this dude right here is 17. And let's continue the story.
And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father.
Oh, okay, hold on now. Joseph's 17, he's the youngest of 11 brothers. He's the youngest, right? So, his dad sends him to basically spy on them to see how they're doing. So, to be honest with you, Joseph, low-key, a little bit of a snitch, whether he knows it or not. He's telling on his brothers, right? All right.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age.
Okay, hold on. So, Jacob was very old when he had Joseph. That's what that means. He was very old. Joseph was the youngest, so therefore he was his favorite. Okay.
Also, he made him a tunic of many colors.
Hold on. He had a very nice jacket. That's all that said. Tunic of many colors, his dad made him something special.
But when his brothers saw their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him.
They was hating.
Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words.
Wow. Okay, so he had a dream. He was dreaming, and the dream specified that his brothers would bow down to him. Now, that was not the custom. The elder brothers would never bow down to the younger, right? So he had this dream that they would all bow down to him. So they already didn't like him because he was the favorite, and he was the youngest. And we already said he was a little bit of a snitch. So now he's saying that they're going to bow down to him, so they really are disgusted with him, right? Right.
Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me." So he told this to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?" And his brothers envied him, but his father kept that matter in mind.
Okay, so now he had another dream. Not only is his brothers bowing down, but his mom and dad are bowing down to him too. So this is getting serious. Not only that, his dad's thinking about because he knows something's up. Now this dude's having dreams and we're bowing down to him. Something special about this kid. He already considers him the favorite. Made him a jacket of many colors, He was special. All right. Following this, they're going out to feed the flocks again, right? So they send Joseph to go check on the brothers. This is what we're going to pick up right here. Verse 18.
Now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near, they conspired against him to kill him.
Oh, did y'all hear that? Did you hear that? Wow, just because he has a nice jacket and his dad considers him the favorite, flesh and blood, they want to kill the dude now? That does not sound good. I'm going to stop because, all right, think about this. Where I started, Jesus saying we got to be about our Father's business. Clearly, his brothers are not about that business because the Father's business is about saving. He came to give life and life more abundantly. His own family, his own flesh and blood are plotting to kill him just because he's special. And what's funny is the Bible says we're all fearfully and wonderfully made. So what does that mean about us? We're special. All right, go ahead.
Then they said to one another, "Look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit. And we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of this dreamer."
Wow, they're plotting and scheming just because he has dreams. Now, I'm going to raise my hand because I have dreams. I have aspirations. I have things that I want to do. How about y'all?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you imagine someone just being flat out hateful for the dream that you have? And who says that you can't do it? Because they are telling him they want him dead just because he has dreams. Wow. Once again, they about that business? No, sir. All right. Reuben, the older brother, comes to his senses just a little bit. He understands that they're going to get in trouble if their younger brother, the favorite, the one with the jacket of many colors, comes up missing. I mean, he's the favorite. If they go back home and they know that dad sent him to watch out for him, and he's not there, he's going to be very upset, right? So Reuben's like, all right, let's not kill this guy. So he's thinking to himself, how can I save this guy? Even though I don't really care for him, I don't like him, I don't want him dead though. So this is what he's doing now.
So it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry them down from Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood?"
Oh my gosh. Okay. So they throw him in a pit. They're like, all right, we're going to throw this guy in a pit. We're going to sit down and eat a meal. That's what they said. Let's have lunch. Or it could have been brunch. Or maybe even Brenner. Who knows? But they sat down to eat while their younger brother, the favorite, the special one, is in a pit. And then some guys show up, some Ishmaelites, right? They see that and they say, you know what? He is our brother. Our own flesh and blood. Let's not kill the guy. That's pretty harsh. Let's sell him. Let's make some profit. It's terrible.
"Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him. For he is our brother and our flesh." And his brothers listened. Then Midianite traders passed by, and his brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And then they took Joseph to Egypt.
Oh, my. Everybody get Maddie a hand. Everybody get Wow. Now this starts off pretty bad for Joseph, right? He's the favorite. Actually, it starts off good. It ends up bad, okay? He's the favorite. Jacked in many colors. He's just doing his thing. You know, dad's favorite. Dad's sending him to go check on the brothers. Not only do they want him dead, they threaten to kill him, and they sell him to slavery. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about being about our Father's business. This is nowhere near that. And he has every reason to be spiteful, hateful, discouraged about everything that just happened to him, right? His own family, his own flesh and blood sold him into slavery. Sent him to a distant land to Egypt, right? Now I'll tell the rest of the story. Okay, so after this happens, he gets sold into slavery to this guy named Potiphar. He is the captain's guard. He works for the Pharaoh, right? For the king. And as he's in slavery, he keeps doing what he's supposed to do according to the Bible, according to the Word of God. He knows that regardless of where he's at, God's with him. He's not upset, discouraged. He keeps pushing according to the Word of the Lord, which is very difficult considering what just happened, right? You would be a little upset if your brother tried to kill you, right? I get upset when my sister eats my toast. So if she was like to lift her hand at me, I'd be very, very discouraged. And sold into slavery is one thing. That's just... Anyway, so he keeps doing what he's supposed to do according to God. And since he's doing these things, despite of his circumstances, despite of what's going on now, picture this, everything that's going on outside of these walls, it's something we've never seen before. But can you pick up and keep pushing like Joseph did? Joseph kept doing what he's supposed to do according to the word of the Lord. He kept pushing. As I said, when I was sitting here watching you guys worship, I was in tears because I was like, wow, you can just tell the Spirit is flowing and moving. And what happens when we step out? What happens when times get rough? What happens when people come against you? Can you keep pushing and be about Father's business like Joseph here? We continue the story. So Joseph does everything he's supposed to do according to the word of the Lord. So he keeps getting blessed. So Potiphar's like, man, this dude right here is handling business. I'm going to make him in charge of everything. Everything. So he puts him in charge of everything, his whole household, right? So Joseph's got leeway. He's got whatever, total control. Everything except the misses, of course. That is a no-no, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So unfortunately, it's a curse sometimes to be so good-looking. I mean, I hate to say it. Just kidding. Joseph, no, I'm not talking about myself, but Joseph was a good-looking man, so the Bible says, right? So Potiphar's wife starts, checking him out. Like he's doing his chores and handling business, and Potiphar's wife starting to, look at him a little differently. Y'all know what I'm saying? And one day, she asked him, hey, husband ain't around. What's up? He's like, what's up? She said, nothing's up. She's like, why not? He was like, not only would I sin against Potiphar, which is your husband, but I would sin against God, which is more important, and I won't do that. And she didn't like that. To the point to where she was trying to come at him, yanking on his clothes and everything. He shook her, Zeke style, came up out of there, and took his shirt. So he was outside. He was like, I ain't going back in there. So she kept his shirt until Potiphar got home and said, look, he was trying to hook up, dangling the shirt. She did this. She was like, what? He did what? Oh, man, he was handling business in here, man. I like the guy. Now I got to throw him in jail. So think about this. His own brothers wanted to kill him. They sold him into slavery. He was still doing what he's supposed to do. Now, this woman accuses him of something. He's thrown in jail. Terrible. And it all boils back down to what his brothers did. So he could still be discouraged, upset, in his feelings about everything going on. But the Bible says, even in prison, he held fast. He did what he was supposed to do according to the word of the Lord. And what happened? It said the Lord was with him. He was still being blessed in this position, in jail. Now, that sounds terrible. This dude's in jail. Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm sure it was. But it says he was basically put at the top position, watching out for everybody. Can you picture being in jail and you got the keys? This is how Joseph was. Like, he's opening up, hey, how y'all doing there? Y'all hungry? He's asking them, hey, y'all doing all right today? How's the missus? Like, dude, you're supposed to be locked up. What are you doing, Joseph? They were letting him walk around like freely. Like, if they had a fridge back then, he would just be in it. Like, what's up? Y'all got something? Like, he'd be in the break room at a prison if this was like modern times. He would just be kicking his feet up or something. That's how God was blessing him, even in these trials and tribulations he was facing then. He still held fast. Now, only reason he was able to do so, it was because he was about his Father's business. He stayed faithful to what the word of the Lord was saying. He always pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed according to this. He stayed faithful. So, the king has a bad day. Two of his employees, they get put in jail. They both have a dream. Remember, keep in mind, Joseph knows a little something about dreams, right? So, they come to him and they're telling him, hey man, King he's tripping. It was both in prison. We had these dreams last night. He's like, oh, I know a little something about dreams. You know what? Why don't you tell me about it? So one of them tells him the dream. He was like, ooh, that's terrible. He's like, what does it mean? He's like, well, 3 days from now, it's not going to go so well for you. King's going to put you to death. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that, man. So the second guy, he tells a story. I'm sure he's a little reluctant after hearing that. He's like, oh, that's not so bad for you. 3 days from now, you'll be reappointed to your job. And once you get back out there, tell the king, I said, what's up? Get me out of here, right? I don't want to be in here. This is not good. Been there for a long. I'm not even guilty. So tell the king about me when you get out. He's like, yeah, I got you, bro. I got you. Of course, everything he said came to pass. 3 days later, one gets put to death. One gets his job back. Of course, the guy that gets his job back doesn't say anything about Joseph. Forgets all about him. Gets complacent, doing his thing, forgets all about Joseph. So Joseph's still in there, still doing his thing, according to the word of the Lord. 2 years pass now. Keep in mind, sold into slavery, almost put to death. Now he's in prison for 2 more years. The king has a dream. That guy that was in prison with Joseph was like, wow, wait a minute. I know a guy that can tell you what that dream means. He's like, really? Where is he? He's like, oh, he's in jail. So they go get Joseph, they clean him up real nice, and he comes out, you can't tell by the way you know. And he's all fresh now, you know what I'm saying? So he gets in front of the king, and the king tells him the story of his dream or whatever, and Joseph breaks it down. He's like, you know what? I know this. He's like, all right, your dream means it's 7 years, right? 7 years, 3.5. It's going to be we're going to be balling. We're going to be balling out of control. There's going to be grain, there's going to be wheat, there's going to be more than we can handle, right? And then 3.5 years after that, it's going to be desolate. There's not going to be anything, nothing at all. So what we need to do is we need to store some of this stuff from this first 3.5, that way we can, outlast the last 3.5. The king was like, bet, that's what's up. Yes, we need to do that. We need to do it. I like you. Not only that, he made Joseph second in command. Now wait a minute. So Joseph was the favorite when he was the youngest by his father. And then he was put in slavery, and he was second in command in Potiphar's house. And then he went to prison, right? And this dude was all up in the fridge with his feet up in the break room. So everywhere he went, because he stayed faithful to that right there, he was being blessed. He was about his father's business. So now after all this, he is second in command, right-hand man to the king, doing his thing. Now, remember the dream this man had. His 11 brothers were supposed to be bowed down to him, right? Well, check this out. Those 3.5 years pass where they're balling out of control. They're saving all this grain and everything. Everything's good. Second 3.5, land's desolate. Everybody around is struggling. Everybody's going through it. Everybody is just like starving, right? So his brothers that thought he was dead, thought he was long gone. They didn't know what was going on with this guy. They have to go to Egypt because they hear that there's food there. And they don't know anything about Joseph anymore. They think he's MIA. He's second in command. So they have to go here and try to buy some bread, try to buy some grain. They show up. What do you think they do? They bow down. They bow down. What does he do? What would you do if somebody tried to kill you, throw you in prison? I mean, all these terrible things happen because of, their hatred towards him. Now, I really want y'all to stew on that because, wow, I love the Lord, but I'd be a little angry. I ain't gonna lie. Joseph could have done anything in that position. He still stayed faithful. Now what happened was, he was in this position to save others. That's what it's all about. The Father's business is about saving others. Now, what happened was he was able to supply grain, food, and all this for his entire family, but he had to go through all these trials and tribulations before that came to pass. And not only that, the end of the story, his father and mother, they all came to live up there too, and they ended up bowing down to him. Now, that wouldn't have happened by any means if he would have lost control, if he would have just quit, tapped out, if he would have gave up, and he wasn't about this life right here, about the Father's business. Now, if a 12-year-old Jesus was so adamant, was so serious about letting his own family know about the Father's business, this Old Testament Joseph going through all this, 17-year-old kid, like I say, teenagers in it, right? Me being 17 going through something like this, I don't know what I would do. That's why I have this right here to focus on and be like, you know what? This is written for a particular reason. This is written to show us that anything is possible because this man endured, I don't know how much pain, how much chaos. I mean, I can't even imagine how long he had to go through, the thoughts in his head about what he would do when he saw his brothers, right? And when he finally saw them again, his dream came to pass. They actually had to bow down to him, just like he said. And it's only because he was about that life. He was about his father's business. Now I want to share another story. This is about another 16, 17-year-old kid. And it's actually one of my favorite verses. It's about David. Y'all know about David? Yes. David was the youngest of 8 sons. And Samuel was a prophet, right? He was sent to Jesse, which is David's dad. He was sent to him to anoint one of his sons to be king. So he goes to the house, shows up to Jesse's house, which is David's father. And he was like, yeah, I'm here to anoint your son as a king. So he has, 8 sons. So he brings out the oldest. He's like, nah, that's not him. He's like, all right, bring out another one. Samuel's just sitting there. He's like, nope, not him. 7 guys passed. They're like, nope. None of those guys are red, right? David's outside with the sheep. Like, they don't even think he's worthy to be in the house. They don't even consider him good enough to be in there to be anointed, right? So David's outside. And Samuel's like, you know what? I am not leaving. I mean, there's got to be somebody else. And they're like, no, David's out there. You can't be talking about him. He was like, well, bring him in. So they brought him in. And David was, they said he was ruddy and good looking, like I said. I'm not talking about myself here, but we may have a little something in common. Anyways, but I digress. Back to the word. So David comes in, and Samuel's like, that's him. The Lord spoke to him. He's like, that's that guy. That's that dude right there. So he anoints him king. He said he's about in between 15 and 17, right? The youngest. I told that story to tell this. 1 Samuel 17 is probably the greatest story of all time, in my opinion. I love this. And it's because you got to keep in mind this dude was a teenager. And Goliath, y'all ever heard about Goliath? Because now you're about to hear it. Goliath, if y'all got a basketball anywhere near, basketball goal? Yeah. Okay, well, the regulation goal is about 10 foot. It takes me like a good drop step just to touch the rim, right? So that's how tall Goliath was. About as tall as a basketball goal. 10 feet tall. I said he had a sword, a spear, and a javelin. He had all kind of armor, and he had an armor bearer, which is, a lot of people overlook that. An armor bearer is a little dude who stands in front of his armor. Like, it's crazy. All right. So this dude right here, I don't know if y'all ever seen the movie Troy. I love it actually, but it's kind of like a clear depiction of what this is. It's one of their greatest warriors fighting one of your greatest warriors, and whoever wins the battle, wins the war, right? So Goliath, being a 10-foot tall giant, would come out every day, and he would just handle everybody. Who wants some? Who wants some Goliath? Like every day, and they'd just be sitting there trembling and biting their teeth and everything. Like, no, man, who's gonna fight him, man? You gonna fight him, man? No, man, I'm not gonna fight him, man. You gonna fight him, man? No, bro. I got asthma, man. It's like everybody's backing out, looking for reasons not to fight this guy. So for 40 days, the two armies would come up and they would line up, one over here, and Goliath would come out and he would check them all again. Who wants some? Who wants some of Goliath? Nobody. Nobody would say nothing. You gonna fight him, man? No, man. Oh, man, I forgot my inhaler, man. Every day, 40 days in a row, every day. No, man, not today, man. It's too bright outside for fighting, man. It's always an excuse, 40 days straight. So, after 40 days, Jesse, David's dad, sends him over there to go check on his brothers. Remember, his brothers are older than him, and they're all off at the war. Send him to check on his brothers and bring some food. All right, so this is where we're going to pick up. I'm going to read this because I think it's excellent. 1 Samuel 17, verse 22. Check this out. It says, and David left his supplies in the hand of the supply keeper, ran to the army, and came and greeted his brothers. Okay, so his brothers have been there for 40 days, not doing nothing really. Just suiting up and standing there and being like, you going to fight him? No. You going to fight him? No. I guess I'll see you tomorrow then. Every day. 23. It says, and David left his supplies in the hand of the supply keeper, ran to the army, and came and greeted his brothers. Then he talked with them, and there was the champion, the Philistine of God, Goliath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistines, and he spoke according to the same words. So David heard them. Keep in mind, David, he ain't been there this whole time. He shows up on the scene, and he sees Goliath once again. Who wants some? Who wants some of Goliath? And David just shows up. He just drops his supplies off, and he sees this guy, and he's like, Who's this guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, there's more like this. Who's this guy? This dude right? This he's so cute. Look at this dude right here. Y'all just gonna let him talk to y'all like that? It's crazy. 17-year-old dude. It actually says he's about 15, 17. So he's like, looking up at this dude like, really? This guy? Y'all been getting checked for 40 days straight, but this guy? All right. I'll keep reading. So it says, 24, and all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were dreadfully afraid. So the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. Now keep that in mind. Israel were God's people. You, me, we're God's people, right? So when they said that, they should have already known we ain't got nothing to worry about. Because if God is for you, who could be against you, right? He who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. So if you don't have that mentality, if you don't have that word within you, of course you're going to be scared. And they didn't have that. But David, when he showed up on the scene, he was full of it, right? He knew the word. He knew everything about it. He fellowshiped with God. So when he shows up, he was like, yeah, I got this because God's got me. All right. And it says, this is what they were going to give the man who beat Goliath. This is crazy. It says on verse 25, so the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. It shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich great riches, give him his daughter, and give his father's house exemption from taxes in Israel. So he's like, they're just bribing people to fight this guy now. Like, hey man, you ain't got to worry about taxes no more. Hey, you can have everything in my pocket, you know. Oh, yeah, not that one. But he's like, you can have all this money, and you ain't worry about taxes. You know what? I got not that daughter. This one right here, she's all right. You can have this one right here, you know. So he's like trying to give the daughter away and the taxes. He's like, no, I'll get you all this. Just go fight this guy. This guy right here. Yeah, just this dude right here. That's it. That's all you got to do. So David hears this and I say he ain't scared at all. Why? Because he is about that business. What business are we talking about? The Father's business. And you got to keep in mind, David was a shepherd. He took care of sheep. So if he takes care of sheep, and he will fight something to fight something away to keep from getting at a sheep. When you're talking about family, when you're talking about brothers, whether they care for you or not, he ain't gonna allow that at all either. All right, so then, verse 26, David spoke to the men, stood by him saying, what shall be done? I like how this is, y'all really gotta keep in mind how this approach. David's like, hold on, wait a minute. David spoke to the men, he says, all right, what shall be done for the man who kills the Philistine and take away the reproach from Israel? Like, wait a minute now, what? Because I want y'all to have that same mentality. Because he has no idea, he has no understanding why they're scared. Not only that, like he's hearing everything that the king's willing to offer up. And he's like, wait a minute, what? What? Like Little John. What? Yeah. Okay. Like that's kind of what he's thinking. Like, this is crazy. There's no reason why none of y'all should not be fighting this guy for everything the king's offering. Why? Not because of your strength, because God's got you, right? He knew that, so he was like confused. And that's what I really want us to see is God's children being about Father's business, being about walking with God. There is no fear. The Bible says he gives us the spirit of power and sound mind. What are you afraid of? I love Joshua 1 because it says that be not afraid, be very courageous. Like a command, I command you. You know, he says, I command you not to be afraid. God tells you that, like, that's a command. Like, he's telling you, man, don't jump. Now, you go out there, don't be scared. Like, you can picture God saying, don't be scared. That's basically what he's telling you. Do not be afraid. I just said, don't be scared. But God says, do not be afraid. That's not his voice, but that's just how I picture him talking. Let me finish. All right. So once again, David was like, they stood by him and they're like, so what shall be done? For this Philistine should defy the armies of the living God? He has no idea or no understanding, like whatsoever, why these people are not fighting. The people answered him and said this manner. He's like, this should be done. Okay. Now check this out. Check this out. Verse 28. Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was aroused against David. So David's oldest brother, Eliab, heard David talking to the people. And he's in his feelings now. He's upset. Why? I do not know. Because they've been sitting there for 40 days straight, not doing nothing. And David shows up on the scene. He's actually excited to go out and handle this guy. He's like, man, y'all, I can't believe y'all allowed this to happen. So the elder brother, he's like, man, he over there just talking, man. He just, this dude ain't gonna do nothing, man. Now he's in his feelings because David shows up and it seems like he's got some kind of heart and he's actually willing to do something. Everybody's kind of like, yeah, man. They're trying to nudge him out there, but he's really like, I'll do it anyway. You ever had somebody trying to push you and you're like, I'm going already. Get off of me. You know what I'm saying? I'm already doing it, bro. Get off of me. Don't get off of me. You know what I mean? David was like that. So Eliab is basically saying, why did you come down here? And they're kind of degrading him now. He says, with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and insolence of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. What battle? You guys have been here for 40 days and haven't done nothing. What battle are we talking about? What battle are we talking about? For 40 days, nothing's happened. I show up and you're upset because I'm wondering why come this guy's still speaking? Why is he still handling y'all like that? This is my family. I don't know about y'all, but you're gonna be talking to me like that. I am David. I don't think he had that accent though. Anyway, so now David says, what have I done now? Is there not a cause? Man, I'm not here. I'm not here for nothing. I came to help y'all. Why? Because I'm about that life. I'm about my Father's business. I'm about helping. I'm about saving. I'm about that Father's business. Well, check this out. Verse 31. Now when the words of David were spoke and were heard, they reported them to Saul. Saul was the king. So they sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go out and fight with this Philistine. Now, they've been waiting for this forever. It seems like a month and 10 days now. A month and 10 days, this guy has been handling them every day, and nobody was willing to do nothing. You gonna fight him? No, man. No, that's my asthma, bro. I told you, man. My asthma, I got 2 pumps left, man. I ain't gonna do it. You gonna fight him? No, bro. I sprained my Achilles. That's a thing. I'm not real sure. But no, not today, bro. David shows up a month and 10 days later. He says, I'll go fight this dude. But keep in mind what he says. He says, let no man's heart fail because of him. Don't be discouraged. What he's saying, let nobody worry about this. I got this. Let's keep reading. Saul says, you are not able to go against this Philistine and fight with him, for you are a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. David said to Saul, your servant used to keep his father's sheep. When a lion and a bear came and took out, y'all gotta check this out, hold up. He says, keep his father's sheep. When a lion and a bear came and took the lamb out of the flock, I went after it, struck it, and delivered the lamb from its mouth. When it arose against me, I caught it by its beard. This is David, a 17-year-old kid. He caught it by its beard, struck it, and killed it. He says, your servant has killed both lion and bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. He says, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear, he will also deliver me from the hand of the Philistine. Now, as I say, if this man is willing to go all out for some sheep, what do you think he's going to do for his family? What do you think he's going to do for his brothers? If he's about his father's business, if he's about saving, you think he's going to go all out for some sheep? Of course he's going to go all out for his family, for his people, right? Wow. I don't know about that. A lion and a bear. Okay, so now he's talking about Goliath. So a lion, Goliath, and bear. Oh my. Lion, Goliath, and bear. Oh my. Lion, Goliath, and bear. Oh my. With me. Lion, Goliath, and bear. Oh my. Lion, Goliath. I can do this all night. Lion, all right, it's not. All right, rest of the story. So David's like, all right, I got this dude. So they put him some armor on. They give him king's armor. He's like, no, I don't like this. It don't fit. Keep in mind, David was a shepherd boy. He had a shepherd bag. I don't even know if Abercrombie's still a thing, but back in the day, they had the dudes that would stand in the window. You know what I'm saying? They had the Abercrombie models that would they had live models. It was awkward. But I can picture David being one of those dudes, like just because it says he was ruddy and good looking. He was just one of those guys. And he had a shepherd bag, and like it's a man bag, maybe. Satchel. Satchel sounds better. Satchel sounds better. Immerse, maybe. But he had a man bag, a satchel, and that's what he used. He used a slingshot, and it says he had a shepherd bag. So this guy, keep in mind, 10 feet tall, sword, a spear, and a javelin, all this armor on. And David shows up. You can tell by the way I do my fucking. But he had the satchel, or the man bag, or the shepherd bag, so they say. So he picks up 5 smooth stones, puts them in his bag. Like I say, just a pretty boy, just 5 smooth stones, just puts them in his bag, and he's got it clutched. I just picture this. This is David just got his bag clutched, and he's walking up, and this dude's this tall, way up here, and he's, who wants him? And David just strutting up, you know, all good looking, and got his little bag, his probably hair flowing in the wind or something. It just doesn't, it doesn't seem right, you know? And which is funny is he picks up one stone, one smooth stone, one shot, and kills this giant. Right in the middle of the head. Boom. I was just thinking about this. One smooth stone. It said it sunk in the middle of this guy's head. Why did he do this? For the brothers that were like hating on him, saying, what are you even doing here? For the father who considered him worthless enough to leave him outside when he was, you know, supposed to be anointed to be king. Why would he do this? The Bible says he was a man after God's own heart. That's why. The Bible says he was about that life. The Bible says that he was about the Father's business. The Bible also says that he was a king that basically set the standard for the kings. Because it says if you obey, if you walk as David walked, if you do as David did, all the rest of the kings had to live up to that standard. That's what kind of dude he was, because he was about the Father's business. Now, as I keep saying, these are teenagers, and they had some trial and tribulation, they had some family issues, they had all kind of stuff that they were dealing with, but they stayed faithful, they stayed diligent, they kept true to not only who they were, but to understand that God was always with them. You gotta keep in mind what he said. He said, the Lord who delivered me. You gotta keep in mind that the Lord is with you at all times. You gotta think about Joseph again, man, like sold into slavery, imprisonment. Could have been angry, could have been bitter, could have been anything. But he even said himself, he says, your brothers, he said, you know what, you guys, y'all meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And I can tell that he was dwelling on that. He was thinking about that. These guys really were out to hurt me. They were really out to get me, but I know God had something good in store. The reason why I say that is because the way things are going outside these walls, like you don't know what to expect anymore. Things may seem to be going, downhill or, uncertain. But you got to understand that God, he always has a plan. He always has things set in motion that we may not understand, but when they come into fruition, when they come to pass, when it finally happens, it'll click. You'll be like, I see what you're doing. And it says that God sits above the circle of the earth. Now you picture him looking down and doing this. I'm freaking out, man. I don't know what I'm doing, man. No, he knows everything before it happens. He knew I was about to say that silliness just now. God knows everything. Everything. You got to keep in mind that there's no mistakes. Once again, the Bible says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. So the fact that we're all here, we know that we're special. Now, back to Jesus. He was 12 years old when he said that he was about his Father's business. Do y'all know what Jesus' profession was? Carpenter. Amen. You know Jesus' dad, his name was Joseph. What was his profession? So he was about his father's business. He was a carpenter, right? Huh. He worked with hammer and nails his entire life. Hammer, nails, wood, his entire life. Wood, nail, hammer. Wood, nail, hammer. Wood, nail, hammer. His entire life. He was a carpenter. Can you picture that? His dad was a carpenter. He was about his father's business. And what I mean by that was he worked around wood, nail, and hammer his entire life. And that's what he used for salvation. That's what he used to give us life. Something he worked around his entire life is what he turned around and used to give us life. Can you imagine that?
That's good.
Knowing that that day would come where that same wood, that same nail, that same hammer that he used his entire life would be for you, would be for me, be for those that don't even know him yet. Wood, nail, hammer. Wood, nail, and hammer. Because he was about his father's business. And what I'm getting at today, man, is I really want you to see, I really want you to understand that regardless of what's going on, you are in the right place right now. And there's nothing more important than learning your role in our Father's business. There's nothing more important than gaining knowledge on who you are spiritually and what God has called you to do individually. Because I just talked about two teenagers who, whose life wasn't perfect. Went through a lot of things, man, and they stayed faithful, they stayed diligent, and they stayed dedicated because they were about this life right here. I want y'all to just remember that. Stay faithful, stay dedicated, and be about that life. I appreciate y'all letting me speak, man.
Thanks, man. Awesome. Thanks, Tony. So, being about the Father's business, you know, he went through what Joseph went through to save people. He went through what David went through to save people. He mentioned what Jesus went through to save people.